my friends, and welcome to Life with Sally podcast. I'm so glad you're here. So please make yourself a cup of tea and come on in. Why, hello, my friend. Welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad you joined me. I'm Sally Clarkson, and at the moment, I am on a Saturday having a really busy time. Don't we all have busy times like that? And I am getting ready to travel to Kentucky to see a very dear old friend. We've been loyal and helpful and loving and encouraging and cried together through many different things. And we make time for each other twice a year. I come to her house, she comes to my house. So I will be in Earlington, Kentucky. In case any of you live there, I might pass you on the street. You never know. But anyway, I'm packing for that. I am also doing this podcast, and I'm getting ready to speak in this week at Hutchmoot. It's a conference for artists and musicians and people who want to be creative and who are either being creative or have a desire to be creative in their vocation or in their lives. And I will be speaking on the art of home art, and with the life-giving table as the centerpiece. And it's been such an encouragement to me today to have to continue to study and read and understand the connection between the shalom, the blessing of people who come into your home to say, I wish you well, I wish you goodness, I wish you protection of God. And then just to find out that blessing was just that, the heart of someone who desired to praise and worship God, and then also to say it in front of his friends at a table, to bring glory to God, to start these feasts with a heart that would say, God, you are at the center of our table. Let us be blessed in your fellowship and the love that we share. And so I'm getting ready to speak about that. And then I will fly home on Monday, Clay and I will. And then I will wash my clothes and fall apart on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I have a special little planned for trip that I'll be doing in Oxford for celebrating one of my children. And I will allow them to remain secretive. But anyway, it's a kind of a busy few weeks. But wouldn't you know, I don't know if you ever do things like this or not. But yesterday, Clay and I decided, after months of waiting to do this, that I needed a new Apple Watch because the one I have is over 3 years old, and it's having a few little attitudes. And my doctor said, you know, at your age, you need to have the Apple Watch that measures your oxygen level and that tells you if you have high blood pressure, and if you fall, it will call an ambulance. You need to consider this, Sally. So evidently, we considered it. So I've been setting up my watch, but in the midst of it, I have really, in the traveling that I've done over the years, sometimes the bags that I carry with these computers in them and books and everything are so heavy, I think that it stretches my arms. I think my arms are 2 feet longer than most people's. But anyway, so we thought, you know, it probably would be good for me to get an iPad for traveling with, because I can still write on it and I can still follow up on email. I can still talk to my children all over wherever they are. And so the thing that you don't ever, do you feel like this about everything? Everything takes longer than you think. Because we got it home, I had to set up my watch. I had to set up my iPad, which of course Clay is the genius. And so we're sitting here trying to figure this all out when we erased the calendar accidentally. So I said, no, I need a calendar, honey. It reminds me of all the commitments I have. And then he was so graciously trying to pick just the apps that I need, because over the years, my children and different friends of mine, assistants who help me in the ministry, have had a hold of my computer or phone, and they've thought, I bet Sally would like this app. So I have about a gajillion apps on my computer that I don't need on my iPad. So anyway, all that to say, it is like giving a mouse a cookie. It's not just opening it and using it. It's having to compare it to your phone, but say, please don't copy all the people in my phone. I've got 38,000 pictures in my phone. I don't need all those pictures downloaded. Anyway, life is just so interesting, and I'm sure that many of you have gone through this before. I think that really wealthy, I would choose somebody really bright who could organize all my things in my house for me, because I do it as often as I can, work at it all the time, but it's not my skill set. What about you? What is your skill set? Well, I asked all of you last week what you would like to study as a part of the podcast for the next few weeks. And overwhelmingly, people said Seasons of a Mother's Heart. It's a heart-to-heart encouragement for homeschooling moms, and I think for women in general, and I'm going to apply it that way. But the thing is, I wrote this over 2 decades ago. I wrote this when Joy was about 8 or 9 years old. I think she might have even been 4 years old. Yeah, she was. So she was 4 years old. She's 30 now. So 26 years ago about is when I wrote this book. So a lot of the stories that I write about it are talking about the fact that our seasons change. And I'm going to do stories from spring, summer, winter, and fall. And the thing is, maybe I'll start on fall since that's where we are right now. But the thing is, you change over the years. As I mentioned, the doctor meeting with me the other day is kind of looking at me like, you're going through a different season, girlfriend, and all these other people are. And I think, no, I'm 20 in my heart. Actually, I'm more like 32 or something. And yet, as I look back, I can see that the years that of walking with God through the little sleepless nights of babies, the joy of watching your children learn to be trained and responding to you and learning to read and learning to ride a bike and asking great questions about God. And then you go into the pre-hormones and then the hormones of the middle school years. And that's when you are humbled and um, you have a whole new thing to work on for your children, reaching their heart and understanding them and giving them context and listening to their secrets at night. And then you go to the high school years before they're going to leave home, and then the other years when they do leave home and whatever they do, maybe they'll get a job or maybe they'll go to university. My kids have gone all over the world. And now that they are adults, they truly are all over the world. Nathan and Kelia are in New York City, and Joy and King are in London, and Sarah and Thomas are in Oxford, and Joel is moving between places. He's in Oxford for the moment, has spent quite a bit of time in London with his music and all. And I realize that if you could mellow as you go, if you could mellow now, instead of fighting against all the changes, instead of fighting against all the different phases that your children would go through, it would be the best for you. But I had to learn one day at a time. But anyway, I'm going to start. You probably aren't going to like the fact that I'm not going to start at the beginning of the book, because I think it might be good for us to start at fall, because fall is this season. No, let me see. No, I think I will start at fall. And then maybe next week I'll change my mind. I don't know about you, but autumn is my favorite time of the year. This is a quote by William Cullen Bryant that I love. Autumn, the year's last, loveliest, smiled. Autumn has all of the beautiful colors that the trees seem to dance with leaves falling from them. The still crisp air was really washing with golden light beams, smiling at my child heart the other day that still hopes for excitement and possibility in no days. Never, my friends, never give up being delighted. The vibrantly painted areas and the leaves wrap a love song around my heart and whisper of God's playful invitation to find him where he dances, where he is in the light and the shadows of my late afternoon walks. As I breathe in the beauty and take time to look and hear, Signposts of life are surrounding me everywhere. The leaves that were so green and flourishing a few weeks ago are now dying. They're drying, and they're falling to the ground to make room for another year, another harvest in the future. The changing weather whispers, change is coming. Your days are shorter than they used to be. With each leaf swirling delicately toward the ground are reminders that we all have limitations, that our season will be over. We all have limitations to the life that we're living, the story we're telling. And I see autumn more clearly than ever before, that I'll talk about in a little bit ahead of this in the podcast. You will not take this season ever again to be able to invest in, to pour out your life, to store up wisdom, to patiently serve others, to choose to dance with joy in your heart, to look for it. This is the message of fall. Time passes. My life is changing, and I must recognize the way that time marches on. I don't have as much time left to invest love or kingdom messages into the lives of my children or my friends or my colleagues or the world. And I don't have as much time to worship God and be thankful as I used to have. My children are all grown, and I cannot take them into my lap. I cannot tell them a bedtime story or have them come to me for all of their needs or questions or decisions like they used to. We are very close, best of friends by God's grace, but now they help me. They counsel me. I wait for their calls. They do not do my bidding anymore. They make their own choices out of how to invest their time, their love, and their messages. Um, so I'm going to read you a little story from fall that I wrote 10 years later after I wrote the book. And now it's even further apart. But what I want you most of all to feel is understood, seen, listened to, affirmed, inspired, encouraged, and befriended. Because I think that I continue to see that in the challenges and difficulties of our lives, when we feel like somebody knows us and understands us and still loves us, even with all of our flaws, we can go a lot longer and do a lot better. This would be a great book to go through with friends in a little reading club, because it opens up a lot of conversation about what you're mutually going through, from difficult babies to exhaustion to wondering if you're doing enough, to sometimes feeling like a failure, to the joys that you have of seeing all of your children learn to read, and you begin to think, wow, I must be a genius. I didn't know I could teach children to read, and all the different phases. But anyway, let's go ahead and start out with 10 years later, Reflections on Fall. Thursday afternoon marked the end of the hustle and bustle of getting Sarah and Joel off to begin an 8-week journey of ministry together in England. It started early with Sarah and Joel. This is a long time ago. And both had been chosen to be interns with the Christian Heritage UK, United Kingdom, in Cambridge under Ranald Macaulay, the husband of Susan Schaeffer Macaulay, the author of For the Children's Sake. And during their 2-month internship, Sarah and Joel would give tours at the Round Church and help with the summer Christian apologetics conferences that were held there. They were thrilled to be venturing off to a place that had represented the zenith of their spiritual and artistic ideals for many years. So for those of you who don't know, Edith Schaeffer was kind of a heroine of mine. She wrote a lot about family and about home and meals and tradition and legacy. And she was married to Francis Schaeffer, who was an apologist. And they traveled all over Europe after World War II to try to redeem and encourage those whose hearts and souls were discouraged. And then they had children, and Susan Schaeffer Macaulay was their daughter, who married an Englishman and moved to start a L'Abri, which was the name of their group, in England. And it's such a small world, because my kids were chosen to be able to go there and work in Cambridge, which is a beautiful city in England. It's one of the best universities there. And they learned a lot. That was one of their first by themselves mission experiences where they had to learn to work hard and they had to learn that not all people are perfect. And anyway, so on and so forth. But the seeds of interest were planted in their hearts about wanting to do something like this when we read aloud together the family book, L'Abri. It's the story of Francis and Edith Schaeffer after the devastation of World War II. So they moved by faith. It reminds me of Clay and me in our lives because we did kind of the same thing. We moved to a little country town, about 700 people, after living in big cities all over the world, after living in Warsaw and Vienna and Los Angeles and Denver. We moved to this tiny little town. Well, that's what the Schaeffers did. They moved to a tiny little chalet in the Swiss Alps to start a spiritual and philosophical ministry and to invite people to stay in their home. It was a refuge for many, many college students who had lots of questions after World War II. The story deeply impacted my children because we believed in hospitality. We believed in dinner table discussions. We believed in theological pursuit. And so they both delved more deeply into the Schaeffers' enriching Christian books and their writings. The ideals and the personalities and the abilities of my two older children had slowly emerged. Now, you have to realize this was a fall season for me because I had already gone through with my two older children babyhood, elementary school, junior high, and now they were both entering adulthood. They were young and full of energy, and that's common for young adults. They're very ready for the season of their lives to test their wings. I remember that all of my children at one point or the other said, Mama, I may never come back home. I just can't wait to get in the world and find out how I'm going to get to be a world changer. And then, of course, all the kids came back home, said, I love being home. I love our family. I love what we eat. I love what we do. So there was that in the seasons of my children's early adulthood. As an enthusiastic young writer, Sarah had always wanted to finish her degree at an English university where she could eventually specialize in children's literature. She had recently been accepted as one of 82 students out of 1,500 who had applied to King's College in London to study toward a master's degree in literature. And it ends up that she didn't even do that. You know, it's funny how life changes. Life is full of surprises. Instead, she went to Oxford, but she had always wanted to study in one of the English universities where Tolkien and Lewis and G.K. Chesterton had lived. Joel had always hoped to study overseas to rub shoulders with internationals, engaging in great ideas and discussion, especially as he was our one child actually born in an international soil of Austria. He was Austrian at heart. He was quite a musician and still is. So both of my young adult children were brimful with dreams and growing convictions concerning the great things that they hope to do with their lives. And they're still pursuing that, and there's still lots of ups and downs in the midst of it all. My children had grown much too old to be mommied anymore, and they were quite ready to be in their own ideals, working towards convictions and messages as adults in their own rights. I was glad it is, after all, what we work for as intentional moms, as intentional people. We hope that at some day, whatever work we're doing will become fruitful, will flourish. And children who become whole and healthy are prepared for the greatest spiritual work of their lives and to see their lives, whatever you are doing right now, whoever you are, do you see your life as a spiritual work? Do you see your life as one where the Holy Spirit is working and giving you passions for your own things? Maybe you're passionate about flowers and gardens and food and vegetables and fruit and whatever. Maybe you're passionate about medicine or science or cooking, whatever, or hospitality. God has given you a personality and strengths and skills and drives in order to use your skills to subdue the world, to bring it out of chaos, to bring beauty to the world. Subduing the world is kind of like you look at a piece of land. I've talked about this many times, but let's say that the land has lots of rocks and it has weeds and it's not level. And so you level it out. You pick all the weeds out. You rake all the rocks away. You choose to find a plan to build a home there. So the foundations have to be laid. The ground has to be worked. You choose colors of paint for the rooms. You choose where the rooms will be, the books that you'll put in these rooms, the toys you'll put in the other. That is taking a piece of land and subduing it. And right where you are right now, God has given you a skill set to subdue, to rule over. Maybe you're going to rule over words like I did, but you have a calling. You have a personality. Even in the difficult times of your life, bringing order out of chaos, bringing beauty out of darkness is something that we do. But I think that when our children can go into the world, it begins to validate some of the training, the reading aloud, the discipling, the correcting, the inspiring, and the loving that went into an investment in their lives. Now, something I want to make really clear here, I had so many people who said they wish that I would talk about young adulthood and how to deal with our young adults. And maybe I'll give just a whole session just on that. But we can shape our children, pray for them, invest in them, but then they have to own their lives. They have to determine, they have to really wrestle through the big questions of theology and what they believe about God, hopefully with the encouragement of us standing right beside them, cheering them on all the way. But I realized early that each of my children had a passion, a personality unique all to themselves. And they needed to be able to pursue those passions and to grow through the stages that I also had to grow through when I entered into adulthood. But the lead up to my children's leaving, where our days had been caught up in much more mundane issues, last minute shopping for clothes, shoestrings, medicine, deposit. Can you believe my children still had shoestrings in their shoes in those days? Hopefully you don't have to bear shoestrings. Um, but there was the depositing of money into a special account for them. There was buying snack food for the apartments they would share to make their dollars stretch further. There were moments when I thought the details would never end because there's a lot of details to sending children away to a job, to a school. For us moving, there are many details, aren't there? All the things that we have to take care of. There were moments when I thought they would never end, but the day finally came, and with much ado, we managed to get the car packed, stop by the bank, head to the interstate to the Denver International Airport to catch the overnight flight to England. And it's funny as I look back now because we've done that so much as a family since then. Is what God has called our family to over years is missions and working and traveling and being international. But when that happened, I was, as a mom, oh Lord, take care of them. This is a big deal. Are they going to be able to mount up over all the difficulties and be able to really stand on their own 2 feet? All of us had been looking forward to this moment, so I was ready, at least mentally, to release them lest they become overripe at home. We had planned on the way to the airport to stop at another convention where we would begin speaking. I ran into a friend and she said, "How's the mama doing with her oldest children leaving for 2 months? Two at once. Are you crying yet?" Oh, no, I hadn't cried yet. I hadn't had time to cry yet. She gave the knowing look of a fellow mother. My answer was probably not what she expected, but it was entirely sincere for the moment. No, actually, I'm really ready to launch these two on a trip. I know they're ready to go. And I nearly added that besides my children's emotional readiness for this trip, I was happy to get past the busyness of all the preparation and all the chaos that we'd been going through in the past month or two. Beyond the normal responsibilities that come with a household full of children, all of the added fundraising, letter writing, packing had taken a toll on our home and on our other children. It was time for all of us to take a breath and move on. After dropping Sarah and Joel at the airport, I headed back home with a motherly sense of resignation. My friend was sweet to ask me, but I felt sure I would be fine. Over the next few days at home, I settled back into the routine. I rested from all the last-minute craziness that had surrounded their departure, and I readjusted to a household of 2 children instead of 4. That's when the absence of my older children hit me. Several days into this, I was walking around the house feeling so hollow inside that I almost couldn't breathe. It was the mundane moment of cleaning my bedroom, unpacking a bag, the reality of their being far away from home, and I couldn't just talk to them all the time. This was also before cell phones, personal cell phones. I realized that even though I was glad to see the Lord leading my precious children into new things, now I was also deeply sorry to lose their presence, those who understood, loved, and laughed at me the best. I was homesick for my children, but I knew I would just have to carry on. The days went on and normal life returned, and I began to realize how much the absence of my 2 older children would change my life. In a very real sense, Clay and I had lost our best friends. Well, my friends, I'm going to let you read the rest of the chapter, but when I look at the seasons of our lives, somehow I think when you first have babies and you're learning about it and you're staying up late and you're changing diapers and they get a cold and you wonder if they're gonna, do they need to go to a doctor? Do they have pneumonia? Is this just an average cold? Whatever. So those spring years are beginnings, and you're discovering new things, and you're watching this life come to bear in your home. But fast forward to fall, summer is a time of when you get to reap what you have sown a little bit. You sow a lot in the summer, and you plan some of the things that you hope will take root in the lives of your children. But autumn is a precursor to winter. Autumn is that time when, oh my goodness, things are changing. And even as the leaves change, and they're so beautiful here right now, even as the leaves change, our children change. We can't hold on to our children. We can't, there is a door closing to what we are able to pass on to them. So one of the lessons of fall for me is do what you can in the springtime. Be resilient. Keep going. Keep learning. Keep living into your capacity. You are going to gain muscle as a mom, as a woman, as a worker. You have such potential. Just keep going, because you will look back and say, I was growing at such a speed. I was growing intellectually from reading books and to my children. Perhaps as a single woman, you're growing, becoming a decorator in your own home, learning hospitality in the ways that you want to exhibit hospitality, learning to decide what work you can do until the time, if you're wanting to get married, which a lot of my single friends are, just being faithful and being joyful in the season that you're in, because seasons will change. But fall is that time that is a warning that winter is coming. I feel like I'm kind of in the fall of my actual life, in the sense of I'm 72. I'm watching myself get a little bit older, a little bit more fragile, a little bit less able physically and to do some things. And I think I just really want to enjoy every day. I want to be seasoned and help all of the people that I can encourage. And I want to live this season well. And so as I look at this season and think about many of you, now if you're in the spring and summer of life in different areas of your lives, pour yourself into it. You have capacity. I look back even at my house I was walking through. We have so much stuff. Does everybody else have stuff? You do collect stuff over the years. But I was looking at all the different tables that are decorated, and the food that I have put away in my refrigerator. I've learned over time, little by little, every time I cook something, I learned in the spring and summer times of my life to cook a big pot of soup that could feed us or other people, up to 12 people. So I store it away in the freezer, and I always have soup to eat, if nothing else. And you learn how to clean as you go. You learn how to plan ahead. You learn how to decide which books you're going to read. You learn how to keep up with your children. It's a very busy time for me, and I will have to encourage many of you that fall is a time to really reap the benefits of the wisdom that you have stored up by having devotions, by having quiet times, by reading profoundly. by even having failures, even having times where you disappointed yourself. You, as a person in the fall, can minister to people and encourage people who are discouraged because you've been there. And you know that you didn't have to be perfect. You just needed to keep walking and walk hand in hand with God. Well, my friends, I'm going to bring this a little bit to a close right now. But there will be a time for, there will be a time when you're going to be sad that the seasons have changed. Sometimes you think, oh, if I can just get everyone out of diapers, or if I can just teach everyone to read, or if I can just have the children learn to be more loving to each other by my training and by making peace with one another and by writing out the 24 family ways. But there will be a time when you will see that your hard work has taken root and has mattered. But when you'll realize that you are so drawn to your children because of the threads of love that are tied to your heart and theirs, that you will wish back for all those busy times that you had when they were right there and they loved you and kissed you and were in awe at all of the things they learned about nature or about the book that you're reading to them. So my admonition is, if you're in fall, give back, encourage those who have need to be understood and need to know that what they're doing matters. But if you're in the other seasons, know that they will pass so quickly, and that this day, this season is one to enjoy. This season is one to look at your children in the eyes, to like their personality, to laugh at their little jokes, because that season will pass. Let me pray for us. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you that even as I'm looking at this now, I can see how much I miss my children. I didn't know that in their lifetimes they were going to spread out into the world. I know they all wanted to shape their worlds and make an impact. But this is a season that I didn't perceive. Help us all to gently submit to the seasons in which we're living. Help us to make use of the days. Help us to love generously. Help us to forgive deeply. And help us, Lord, to be a light and a source of goodness wherever we go. We love you and we thank you that you're with us at every moment. Let us call upon you and believe in your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, my friends, I have been so encouraged by you and your notes to me. I wanted to mention, and maybe by the time some of you hear this, it will be over, that I had promised on my membership that I would start doing live streams for them, answer questions, talk about, this week I'm going to be talking a little bit about some poetry, a little bit about making your home a place of resources, a little bit about what really creates deep brain pathways in the lives of your children, and how to balance planning for them and learning what to let go of. And so if you are a member of Life with Sally, we will be going, you'll get an email about it, but I'll be meeting with all of you through a Zoom call for groups, and it's going to be on Tuesday night. I will be in Kentucky, so it'll be 5:30 Central Time. It will be 6:30 Eastern Time. Is that right? It'll be 4:30 Mountain Time and 3:30 Pacific Time. And for those of you who can't make it at that time, we will be recording it so that you can download it from the membership and listen to it later. And if you aren't a member, please join us. You can join at any time. It's lifewithsally.com. And it's possible that we might even put some of these together for those of you who aren't members so that you can listen to it down the line. But I wanted to remind you of that because we sent the invitations out a little bit late this time, but I hope to be doing this multiple times this year. So have such a wonderful week, my friends, and I look forward to seeing some of you at Hutchmoot, and maybe I'll even see some of you in the UK. You never know. Have a great week. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed today's episode but are longing for even more spiritual encouragement,